Hello everyone, and welcome back to another 30-second mock review, where today we will be going over the E-Wing. This ship is really cool. I'm glad that it showed up in Ahsoka, and I especially love the redesign. There have been quite a few mocks already of people making these, but I'm here to tell you why this one is the best. This mock is minifigure scale at 1/42nd scale. Because of the scale I went for, it actually ends up being smaller than the LEGO set. It's impressive how close the playset was to minifigure scale, but there were just so many things I think they could have improved. This mock has so many features that took hours to put together and so much detail that makes this the most accurate version you can find. And I know I always say that, but I do believe it's true. I put a lot of hard work into my models, and I do make sure that they are as best as they can be. Starting off with one of the most important features in my opinion is the windscreen. Usually I try to use a actual LEGO windscreen piece or something that comes with the actual set, like the X-Wing cockpit, or a larger piece. However, for this mock, I decided that there were no pieces that exactly fit how it was supposed to look. So I had to make my own. Usually I don't like it when people make mocks with bars as the windscreen because it feels like it's not cohesive, that it is too open and that it wouldn't be airtight. And obviously it's Lego and I haven't done the exact same thing, but I did make sure to have a windscreen and you can fit a minifigure inside. There is just enough room to make sure that the head doesn't hit the glass. It is at a very nice angle and it does line up with how it is supposed to in real life. The main thing that I based this on was the Vintage Collection New Republic E-Wing from Hasbro. And the reason I did that is because this model is huge and it also has the most amount of detail that you could see and the best angles, and of course with it being a toy there are plenty of reviewers, so I was able to go out and see how it actually looked and take that information and turn it into the best Lego model. I will also be going through some of the changes, but that will be more till the end, because right now I just want to focus on how great the model is now. I think it's very important to talk about the front as well. This nose piece is made very specifically for it, and you can see that there are two little pieces that come out a little bit, and that is completely intentional because that is how the E-Wing is supposed to look. So yes, I put a lot of effort and detail into this. There are many different grays in different places so that you could see where the panels are different, and I did try to match it as much to the toy as possible because I thought that it looked really nice. I even made sure to include some of the different colored symbols like this red part at the front and the gray panel. There's even a separation between the blue parts and the canopy so that you could see it is as close as possible and a very good model. If you want to take a look inside, you'll have to remove the windscreen from the clips. You can do that very easily, and you'll see that there is plenty of room for a minifigure. He can even lean back, and there is a control pad so that he can use it. I used a lot of very advanced techniques to hold this together. You could see that there was a lot of thought and effort put into this, and it was also very difficult to make perfect. If we come back over to the side, you can see that there is the vent on the side of it, and I think that this is a really important detail that I was able to nail down pretty much perfectly. You can see that there are different curves in it, and there are different sections that make it up. Moving back a bit, I think I did a very good job overall, but I do want to focus on the main section for a little bit. When I was designing this, I had two different modes in mind. One would be for playability and the other would be for displayability. Now here I have this plug that you can insert or you could take out, and in place of it you could have the Astromech's full body so that it would slot in and be in the middle of it. So this would be for play and it wouldn't be as accurate, but what you can do is you can put it back and then remove the Astromech's body and put the head on top, and this is where it's supposed to be in canon. And that's one of the many ways that I've considered things when making this ship. It was a bit difficult to get these black rings in place, but I did make sure that it is structurally stable and it does look good. You even have the greebling on the sides. And before we go to the wings, let's take a look at the back. There's this part in the back that does have a slot in it, so you can see that there is a offset. And I thought getting this right was very important. I do think it looks really good. And then also on the very back, you can see that I did put a lot of detail. One of the things that I did was the hinge piece inside of the bar handle, and I wanted to do that because it kind of reminds me of the arc speeders. Although I didn't angle the back, I still have a lot of detail, and I think I did a great job. One of the things that a lot of other designers missed is the extra laser cannons on the back. These are very small details, but they are definitely apparent on the ship. I think they look great and are an amazing addition. Although it is possible to make them white, I decided to leave them light gray for contrast, but also because the white one is about $1.50 each. Moving back up to the wings, these were one of the most thought out parts. You could see that it's built out of mostly the snot technique, but has so many details that I was able to get using it. There's this little disc here, and there's even the connecting part of the wing. The wing bends at a great angle. I did want these dark gray pieces to be in blue, however, those would be $3 each, and I did not want to do that. If we do look at the cannons, you can see that there is a extra bit at the end. There's a harpoon that I used, and then also this 1x2 rounded piece so that I could get that extra detail in. Even the end of it has another nib. I decided not to go with 3 wide for the engines because I wanted to use this piece, and I also think that it matches better with this scale. I also included exhaust coming out the back, however you can remove it. One of the parts that took the most amount of time to figure out, but also to get right, was this extra cannon. It fits together in a very peculiar way, and it took a lot to make sure that this was right. The reason that I put so much effort into this is because when you look at the wing of it, you can see that this part is very thick, while the part that actually connects to the body of the ship is very thin, and that cannon sits right under it. One of the last changes that I made to it was the landing gear. I don't always include a landing gear in my models because it is very hard to design around, especially because in these ships there are a lot of parts where you would have structure, and that structure is more important than having a functional hiding landing gear. The back ones do function, you just have to rotate them up and then they are hidden. There's also a piece on the bottom that is covering up the landing gear. If you do want to have this piece, you will have to remove the landing gear, and that is the only place where you have to manually take it apart. However, you can just remove it and this extra piece, and with that you would be able to fold it up and hide it away. I only included it so that you could have it very flat if that's the way that you prefer. While we're down here, I do want to talk about the bottom. I put a lot of effort into making sure this looked right and making sure that it was very strong. One of the things I wanted to do was have a very flat bottom. You can see that these structure bits do connect to the body. The only thing that I did differently is a limitation of Lego. There are very few pyramid pieces, and so I was not able to get the exact angle. However, this does still look very good. For this bottom, it may be hard to see, but there are some very small slits in this. I do want to give credit to Bow Studs and his brick vault model because that is what inspired me to make it the way I did. It is seamless, and I made a custom attachment to the stand so that you could display it however you'd like. I did also decide to release the stand on its own. One of the reasons is that I do use this version of the stand in quite a few models, and I did this for 2 reasons. One of them being that if you do end up purchasing this model, you won't have to buy the pieces for the stand unless you absolutely wanted to, but also it clears up the clutter for the thumbnails because on Rebrickable you have to include everything that's in the set, and that also includes the stand. I recently added it as a free listing on Rebrickable, so anybody can have it whether or not you've already bought one of my sets. This is also linked in the description under the E-Wing, and it would be great for displaying any of your sets or any of your other MOCs. I also included the adapter for the E-Wing with the slits, however you don't need that and it can actually work without it. I just feel like it is a nice way to keep it nice and clean looking. Now on to some of the changes I made in development. We are back in Brickling Studio just to go over some of the changes. I do have a huge layout of what I was making. Originally, I was going to use this piece as the windscreen and have these grill pieces as the front of it. However, I decided that it did not look too good, and I think that everybody would be happy with the one that I went with now. It may be hard to see what's actually going on, so let's clear up some of the clutter. This was going to be the original side of the nose. I did have this little slope piece, and it was all very brick built. However, I decided that it didn't look as good as I'd wanted it to, and so I decided to restart. I almost went with this wide nose, however I felt like it was a little too wide. I also almost had these curved pieces, but I think that the way that it came out, especially with these extra tiny details, was more important. Another thing was the cannon in the middle. I almost made it with this light bulb piece. I like to call it the little gumdrop piece, but it is definitely a light bulb. Instead, I went with this Technic pin piece and the bar stud. If we move back a bit, you could see some of the different iterations. Most of the shape remains the same, however there are a few key details that I had changed. I didn't notice how thin that this part was supposed to be at the beginning, so it was very thick in the start, and it also had a few gaps. The cannon was mounted on the underside, and I eventually changed it quite a few times to end up how we have it now. I also used this black astromech to help me figure out what I would want it to look like. I also made this tiny version, a little microfighter, and if you would like to see me make a tutorial on it, then I can make a short about that, but let me know in the comments down below. This E-Wing took a lot of work to come up with, and if you would like to support me or see more by me, then please like and subscribe. If you want to get this model for yourself or would like to see the universal stand, then check out the links in the description. And let me know what other projects you'd like to see from me in the future. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.